Hello everyone, and we're back looking at an in-depth analysis of the Noob Cube. Today we're going to be looking at black. So we have Vampire Lacerator as our first one drop. It's common in most cubes. We have Typhoid Rats, but we also have, spoilers. We have Typhoid Rats and we have Strictly Better Typhoid Rats. So both cost 1 black and they're 1/1s with Death Touch. Great. This one also has Morph, and if you reveal a black card and flip it face up, your opponent loses 2 life. That's just all upside. This is like 2 of the exact same card, except this one is all upside. But yeah, Death Touch is good, right? Death Touch is a thing. We have a Carrion Feeder. This is great with Red's Active Treason-like effects, because then you can sack the creature afterwards, as well as the Callous Oppressor in blue. Throw a Parasite. I consider it still a black card, even though it has Extort, because you can just use it in black anything and still use that Extort ability. You can tap it, pay 2 life to remove a counter from a non-land permanent. Gnarled Scarhide. It's 1 black, 2/1. It can't block, and it has Bestow. I think this is one of the Bestow guys that's going to stick around because it's one of the Bestow guys that's in a lot of other cubes. Disowned Ancestor's got to go. Please leave in the comments what you think should replace Disowned Ancestor. Keep in mind this is a budget cube. We have a Shambling Goblin, 1 black for a 1/1 zombie goblin. When it dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. And then we have his exact duplicate. It's 1 black for a 1/1, and when it dies, target creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn. This one might end up killing one of your own creatures. This one just says a creature an opponent controls. This one says even if the only other creature is your creature, you have to give it a -1/-1. We have a Mardu Shadow Spear. So it has dash. It's a 1/1 for 1, but if you dash it, it can attack right away. When it attacks, each opponent loses a life. And then we have a 1/1 for 1, can't block and can't be blocked. Let's just take a look at the 2 drops. We have Brain Maggot. It's 1 in a black, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, your opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card, exile it. When Brain Maggot dies, they get their card back. We have Blood Artist. Also good with Carrion Feeder and sack effects. It's a 0/1. Whenever a Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses a life and you gain a life. It's really good with Wraths too. Big swings in life. Sultai Emissary, 1/1. When it dies, you manifest the top card of your library. Bloodghast, 2/1 for 2. If it's in your graveyard and a land comes into play under your control, then you get to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. It can't block, but it does get haste as long as your opponent has 10 life or less. Screwsdag High Priest. Bet you weren't expecting to see this today. It's 1 in a black, 1/2. It has Morbid. You tap it and 2 untapped creatures you control, and you get a 5/5 black demon. Oh my god. Things are about to get real. Vampire Hexmage, 2/1, first strike for 2 black. First strike's a weird ability on black, I don't know. And then you sacrifice the Hexmage to remove all counters from a permanent. I don't think there's a lot of situations where you're going to want to do that. But it is kind of interesting that it has first strike as well. So what you can do is you can resolve first strike damage first and then sack it to remove counters off something. Maybe that would reduce its toughness enough to kill it or trade with it, as opposed to just dealing first strike damage and losing your guy. Blood Chin Rager. This guy rages all day, every day. When he attacks, each warrior creature you control can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. There's a couple different warriors in this cube, so that's interesting, but just by himself, 2/2 can't be blocked except by 2 or more. Speaking of warriors, who's this Mardu Skull Hunter? 2/1, when it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, your opponent discards a card. It does enter the battlefield tapped, though, because it's a warrior, and he's like all sleepy when he comes into play. He's a sleepy guy, he's a sleepy warrior. We also have a Pain Seer. This is a human wizard. They've studied the dark arts. It's a 2/2 for 1 and a black. When it untaps, you reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, and you lose life equal to the card's converted mana cost. And we have the Battle Brawler. 2/2 for 2, but if you control a red or white permanent, Battle Brawler gets +1/+0, and that's first strike. That's a pretty good deal. I like red and white permanents. It's a card that I would consider playing. Alright, so we have the Salumgar Assassin. Creatures with power greater than the assassin can't block it, has Megamorph. When it's turn face up, destroy target creature with power 3 or less. A 3/2 that has creatures with power greater than it, can't block it. Seems reasonable. We also have Reckless Imp. This actually should have been a 2-drop, because I think most of the time what you're going to want to do is dash this into play. We have Herald of Torment. So what Herald does, it's a 3/3 flyer for 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life. It's also Bestow. Merciless Executioner, if you're familiar with Fleshbag Marauder, this is more of the same. Also Warrior. Also not a warrior is Bone Shredder. 2 and a black, 1/1. Flying Echo. When it comes into play, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. I love this card. This card is great. This card is better than cats. I would see this card again and again. Grim Harspecs, another morph guy. The thing with morph is that if you're going to put a couple morphs in, it's not as good as putting a bunch of morphs in. And I like morph a lot as a mechanic. This one, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you draw a card. That's pretty spicy. And we have a Kuru Bloodsucker. That was my nickname in high school. 2/2 for 2 and a black. Whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. And 2 and a black, you sack another creature. Might as well put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. Pretty interesting card, especially if you have a way to gain control of your opponent's creatures. Vampire Nighthawk, altered by Catherine, because this card was in Japanese initially, and I didn't have an English version, so we whited out the text box and wrote it out in English. Hypnotic Spectre, this card is beaten around the edges. It has seen a lot of play, it's seen a lot of battles. It's going to continue to see battles in the Noob Cube. Master of the Feast. This is a card that currently the only winner ever of the Noob Cube, Lucas Childs, calls Master of Ceremonies because he doesn't read the cards. It's a 5/5 flyer for 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. So that's a bit of a side effect. You don't get the 5/5 flyer for 3 with no side effect. Here's a card that's probably got to go. Minister of Pain. 2 and a black for a 2/3. Has exploit. If you exploited a creature your opponents control, all get -1/-1 till end of turn. It is good against token strategies, and there are token strategies in this cube. We have Hidden Horror for Reanimator. 4/4 for 3. When it comes into play, discard a creature card or bury Hidden Horror. Bane of the Living wipes out tokens, wipes out pretty much everything. It's a morph, which is good for the morph theme. When it flips, all creatures get -X until end of turn. Gravedigger, as you can see, I only had a Japanese version of it before. Disciple of Bolus, 3 and a black for a 2/1. It does some stuff when it enters the battlefield. You sack a guy, gains X life equal to creature's power, and draw X cards. I think that this Salumgar guy is worse than the last Salumgar guy. This has, when it exploits a creature, another creature gets -3/-3. Classic, just a classic Singer Vampire. If you're playing this in the Noob Cube, you've probably made some errors during your draft or during building, but you get style points. You get high fives from both matches to your right and your left at the same time. All the high fives. So if you want high fives, you definitely want to play Singer Vampire. If you get a counter on that Singer Vampire, I think you should get high fives from everybody at the table. Silent Spectre, another morph. Force your opponent to discard 2 cards from their hand if it hits them. 2 cards! That's a big game. We got this black dragon here. Noxious Dragon. When it dies, you destroy a creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. Hithonia the Cruel. She is a cruel Mistress Gorgon, Legend Mistress Gorgon. For 6 mana, it's a 4/6 death touch, but it monstrosities 3, making it a 7/9. And when it becomes monstrous, you destroy all the non-Gorgon creatures. I think this might be the only Gorgon creature in the cube. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Last two creatures, Twisted Abomination's got that swamp cycling that makes it so juicy. And we have the Sultai Scavenger, another Delve card. It's a 3/3 flyer with Delve. Alright, let's take a look at the non-creature spells in the cube. We have an Innocent Blood, great removal spell for turn 1, a deck that goes off really early. This kind of slows it down a little bit. We have a Despise and a Duress to go with the Despise. Despise only hits creatures in this format because there's no Planeswalkers in the cube yet. Another card that, as you can see, was altered from Japanese to English. Disfigure. 1 black instant, target creature gets -2/-2 till end of turn. We have a Tragic Slip signed by Canadian national champion Mark the Heartbreaker Anderson. It's a tragic slip. I can't think of a joke. If you know of a joke, let me know in the comments. Chainer's Edict. It's 1 and a black. Target player sacks a creature, but it also has flashback. I love this card. It's been in the cube, I think, since I built the cube. My very first cube. All the cards that I'm showing you have been in this cube since I built it. This card was in my very first cube. It was an instant include, and I've never looked back since. I've been very happy with it always. Sign in Blood, Sweet Altar. It's a sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Animate Dead. This card is pretty sweet. It basically is Reanimator. You kind of need this one if you're going to go in on Reanimator. It's the best reanimation tool, I think, in probably most cubes. Heartless Summoning. This card's a bit of a joke. I don't know if anyone's going to ever try to attempt this. But you know what? We're just starting out. We're building a new cube from scratch. We got to throw some fun cards in. We gotta. It makes all of your creature spells cost 2 less, but it gives all the creatures you control -1/-1. We got a Doomblade, Sweet Altar, Go for the Throat, got a Mind Rot, probably not good enough for cube. Agonizing Memories is basically it's weird. It's 2 and 2 black sorcery. You look at your opponent's hand, or target player's hand, and choose 2 cards from it. Put them on top of that player's library in any order. So you basically stop them from drawing cards for 2 turns and and make it so that they don't have access to something for, I guess, at least a turn. It can be pretty devastating. And it also says choose 2 cards from it. So if you can accelerate and play this, you can bury, maybe they only have 1 land, you can bury that land under another card. There's a lot of things you could do with this. I think it's an interesting enough card to try it out. It does cost a little bit, but we might find out that it works and it's actually pretty good. Living Death is cute. Basically what Living Death does is all the creatures in play go to the graveyard and all the creatures in the graveyard come into play. Rise from the Grave. It's another reanimation tool because we don't have access to some of the more expensive ones, but it's 4 and a black sorcery. Put a creature card in any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and that creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. Public Execution, the 1 card that was labeled the worst card in the cube, a 5 and a black instant. You destroy any creature an opponent controls, and then each other creature that player controls gets -2/-0 until end of turn. 6 mana for basically Go for the Throat. It's not good enough, and it needs to get cut, and it will be cut right away. And then Corrupt, another card that a lot of people are calling to be cut from the cube immediately. It's 5 and a black sorcery, and it deals damage equal to the number of swamps you control to target creature or player. You gain life equal to the amount of damage that was dealt this way. And that's black. If you have any suggestions about black cards, let me know in the comments of this video. And thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.